इफ आपको पता है आपको पता है, इफ आपको नहीं पता है आपको नहीं पता है।
तो उसके लिए क्या है अभी आई के वाई के
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. So I asked AI that IYKY. IKYK. So the AI says, I don't understand Swahili yet, but I'm working on it. I will send you a message when I can talk in Swahili. So I actually then to test it, I said, ha ha ha, good one. So AI responded, ha ha ha, thanks, I'm here to help and have some fun too. Not bad, huh?
Not bad.
We are live, by the way.
Oh yeah, right.
Yes.
कौन सा वाला
If
है
you know,
ये?
you know.
ये कौन सा वाला है?
The meta, yeah.
Meta है.
Well, it's easily available on WhatsApp. But anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in. And some of the messages that have come in have been fabulous. You made our day. Firstly, like, subscribe.
Yeah.
You know the drill.
You know the drill.
And from our world.
What is that?
NDTV Profit hiking likes as if they are tariffs.
Who is Donald Trump from the three of us?
He's sitting in the background. Mridul, come on, Mridul. Just color your hair gold.
And this is Trump. I don't mind being Elon.
Okay.
You are?
No, I'm fine.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
No. I'm fine being a common man.
No, but hey, you are on a seat. You are hiking tariffs. You can't be a common man. So you have a choice of either being Elon or Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Or Vivek Ramaswamy.
Then I'll go for JFK Jr.
JFK Jr. So Vivek Ramaswamy, you're fine with that?
Do I have a choice?
Choose.
कुछ
You
बचा
can,
नहीं है
you
sir.
can be the White House press secretary.
Live it.
Anyways, but yeah, so actually I haven't seen the markets today. Are they okay?
They're
Yes,
okay?
they are
They're
okay, doing fine so far, 0.5% up.
Not bad, near the day's high. And,
IT is recovering a bit, bank is recovering a bit.
and
but-
broader
RBI.
markets, broader markets doing well.
They did well yesterday too, by the way.
Yeah.
So yesterday portfolios were up in the green despite the fact that the Nifty was down. Large
It was
caps
all
corrected.
financials and pharma and IT.
IT.
These are the three pain
But
pockets
today
yesterday.
you're seeing a lot of IT preview reports coming in and everyone is talking about being cautious.
घनघोर मंदी.
हाँ मतलब ये बोल रहे हैं कि नंबर्स म्यूटेड आएंगे, गाइडेंस बहुत ही ज़्यादा म्यूटेड होगा क्योंकि उनको खुद मालूम नहीं है क्या हो रहा है.
Yeah.
Next
I
12
think
to 18 months.
it's a macro impact which is there, and there's some buying which is happening because I think there's a JPM report for one or two companies, Infi and Emphasis. Emphasis they
all. JP Morgan is on everything.
हाँ,
Tata Elxsi से लेके Sagility पे भी.
But TCS को डाउनग्रेड किया है, right?
हाँ.
JP Morgan ने HCL Tech को डाउनग्रेड किया.
TCS को और Wipro को.
विप्रो को,
और
ये तीनों को.
टारगेट प्राइसेस सब में काटे.
हाँ.
और बड़ा काटा सर, सिर्फ काटा नहीं. मतलब nice big pie they've just taken out.
No, but imagine ये stocks already गिर चुके हैं.
हाँ.
और उसके ऊपर तुम टारगेट प्राइस नीचे काटो. बेसिकली वो अपना जो वो है ऊपर का कैप है उसको नीचे को लेकर आए ना. वही किया है ना उन्होंने. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि प्राइस अभी x है और उन्हें x माइनस कर दिया है. ये अभी x प्लस 100 था, आगे x प्लस 50 कर दिया है. सिंपल राइट. ऐसे
Yeah. No, but yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful. This industry, though, this is a structural business change, which we may or may not have seen in the past. But from 2000 onwards, we've seen obituaries written for Indian IT.
I agree.
For them to always come back.
I agree.
I am rooting for them to come back because they are a big contributor. Selfishly, a big contributor to Indian workforce, Indian service exports, etc. So they should hopefully do well.
If India wants to do well, they have to do well.
See, I'm saying that they are going to grow. But it's not at the pace what the street wants.
I want them to grow at the pace that the street wants. Let's see if they do.
I don't know. Means at least next 6 months में नहीं
next 6 months
नहीं दिख रहा है वो visibility. Means they are going. We are talking about a 5% dollar growth in FY25, and now we are talking about 1 to 4% growth in FY26. Now, if you go beyond 4%, which will happen if it happens, then it's a very good scenario, right? It's a blue sky scenario. जो अभी minus किया है वो ऊपर हो जाएगा. मतलब we're talking about FY25 के ऊपर growth के बाद. But you know one thing which we are missing out is that Europe is coming back. And many of the Indian IT companies have 20 to 30% of their revenues coming from Europe. And within Europe, if you have a good exposure to defense companies or the capex companies there, then you have a much, some kind of tailwind which is coming in there.
Yeah.
While it's very difficult to figure out कि कितने different Indian companies का exposure है inside the companies में, but the way European markets are going up and the kind of companies coming in. So we need to watch out for that. Utilities, we are talking on non-BFSI companies in Europe because वहाँ पर वो tailwind आ सकता है.
Yeah, but even BFSI at some point of time with the kind of capex they are speaking about will come back. Europe is kind of shed its cloak, right? It's saying that, okay, we're conservative for far too long. It's like now or never. We're going out, we are going to expand, let deficits go up, doesn't matter. Rates are coming down, all of that should spur. So, yeah, I mean, I'm enthused by this happening because although it gives competition to, let's say, a market like India, there is growth elsewhere too. For the longest time, right, there were 1 or 2 or 3 pockets of growth. Everybody else was suffering. Now there is China, there is Japan.
There's positive news coming from China because the industrial data is improving there.
Yeah.
March.
There's Europe and India.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Chinese data was Monday को आया.
हाँ, Monday को आया. थोड़ा सा improvement था उसमें.
थोड़ा improvement.
Slightly improvement था, but it's not as big a jump, but it shows some signs of revival. That's what it was showing. Chinese data.
Data. So the number for China was this, right? Hang on, I'll tell you. This.
By the way, Samara World, my producers are saying it's 50 likes today.
50 likes today. Okay, yeah, go for it. So China's March manufacturing PMI. Manufacturing activity expanded at the fastest pace in a year in March. A factory survey showed. And the official PMI, Purchasing Managers Index, which is an indication of how is it that the manufacturing space might be doing and etc., rose to 50.5 in March from 50.2 a month ago. This is the highest reading since March 2024, and it matched the forecast in a Reuters poll, for example. So, and this reading has come after Beijing has outlined more measures to support consumption. So that will actually aid growth in the quarters ahead.
So, one thing which is coming out from there is that, okay, in Jan and March, Feb, we saw Beijing putting in much more weight behind some of the measures. And that is translating into activity within a month's time, right? And the transmission effect of that is not slow, it's showing up. So, it could pick up pace.
So, should be interesting. So, well, let's wait
but
and watch.
We're watching Liberation Day.
No. Before that, before we get to Liberation Day, and I have some thoughts there, but before we get to Liberation Day, RBI to the fore again, 80,000 crores of OMOs. Right? I heard Hersh.
Is it part of the same thing which was announced, or is it a fresh one?
A new thing.
New thing. So April में liquidity issue है?
नहीं है इशू ना सर. 31st March को they released data on the 1st of April saying that, or whatever, on the 30th
surplus
of March if I recall, that 89,000 crore surplus में है.
निकाल लिया.
निकाला कहाँ है?
निकालेगा.
वो तो जहाँ पे है वही है. वो surplus liquidity रहेगा. अभी 80,000 करोड़ और डालने वाले वो लोग.
Oh, okay, infuse.
They're going to do an OMO, open market operation, where they're going to infuse.
And why do you need that? Means, is there a crunch coming in April?
Sir,
or is it a buffer which has been created?
No, it's a buffer which is being created to ensure that that
uncertainty की वजह से.
Correct. And the other thing is that you've been in liquidity deficit for far too long.
Yes.
So you have to have that extra buffer for a few months to ensure that we are not going back into negative liquidity.
No, but आप ये सोचो ना यार.
No, I'm trying to understand the reason behind it.
So my fundamental reason is
वो सर next week तक पता चल जाएगा. वो खुद ही बोल देगा.
अच्छा हाँ.
Policy है.
Policy है ना April में.
No, but you are seeing both PLI and otherwise. There are flows happening from the government side to private sector, right? This will result in capex.
Correct.
Capex coming in, they need liquidity. So instead of trying कि भाई आग लगे तब कुआं खोदो, आप पहले से provision करके रख रहे हो. This is the new RBI governor's playbook, that I don't want to do it back then. I'll do it right now, make the industry know that I am there to provide liquidity if there is need. Go ahead and do capex. For long, private sector capex has been ailing. You need the measure of confidence from the government and the monetary and fiscal No, fiscal we've seen. The PLI schemes are out there. Yesterday, Dixon, today Amber. Very constructive comments on PLI. So I think they're doing that bit. Can they do more? Sure they can. But on the RBI's front, they've done really well.
There are going to be 3 things which are going to happen starting 1st April, according to me. Or rather, will start playing out very, very quickly. One, the TDS...
You mean starting yesterday?
Yeah, starting yesterday. The TDS that gets cut on your salaries is going to come off quite sharply. You will have at least 6,000 to 8,000 rupees more.
Yeah,
in terms of bandwidth.
A total of nearly 1 lakh crore is going to be there, right?
Correct.
So 8,000 crores of additional income.
Roughly 6 से 8,000 रुपया तुम्हारे बैंक अकाउंट में ज़्यादा आने वाला है. So that is huge given the scale. That is one. Second is orders have started to flow through when you're looking at across the board, infra से लेके defense. And third is this, that you have the RBI coming out and saying, no matter what happens, we are going to support. Which is big. To say that I'm in surplus of 89,000 crore and then saying that I'm going to add another 80,000 crore in April is huge. So I think that it's a big positive. Both of those 2-3 factors will likely play out in favor of banks. If it were to remain for the next quarter or so, you'll likely start to see numbers inch up.
Give us an idea of what kind of numbers will go up.
It's very tough to call कि कैसा number ऊपर जाएगा.
मतलब trend कैसे होगा ये बताओ.
Well, the goal will always be that one, you first help deposits, and if deposits get aided, automatically advances growth will improve. So it will be a twin engine which will play out. What banks are telling RBI currently, basis whatever I'm reading, is that they are saying कि boss, you take care of liquidity, we will take care of lending, and which will spur growth. You take care of liquidity. Problem is there's a liquidity crunch, and then there's too much competition. Competition is taking care of rates. So what are you worried about? Is what I think they are telling RBI. So you take care of liquidity. The competition will take care of rates, and no unreasonable lending will happen. I think that is the kind of.
And how will it play out in the domestic market? So you're looking at all the infra companies, which is going to be the focus because capex अगर बढ़ रहा है.
Sorry, I was looking at the appreciation, so I didn't hear your numbers. I saw the question. So there are such good messages, yaar. And no, but we'll get to that. Hey guys, it's always a delight watching you all. For us viewers, this show is becoming slowly blending into our everyday routine. Love it. Thank you so much for that. And Samara World is saying, Sajeet sir, reciprocal tariffs, we want 2 shows per day. We love the show. 100 likes is not very far. This is great stuff, guys.
Thank you,
Samara. Made our day. Thank you so much. You made our day. Sorry, अभी आप बताइए और बाद में मेरे बाद आपके लिए सवाल है.
हाँ, मैं सवाल का जवाब दूंगा पर पहले ये बताइए कि he is talking about liquidity and इसका impact कौन-कौन से सेक्टर्स में होगा और कौन-कौन से likely beneficiary
जो कैपेक्स कर रहे हैं सब में है. सो सीमेंट में कैपेक्स नहीं हो रहा है तो चलो आप उनको छोड़ दो. हाई कैपेक्स इंडस्ट्री कैपेक्स.
So roads and highways,
PLI manufacturers, some metal companies which are setting up capex now. I mean, you know, much as we think they're Indian metals, but ये EDD लग गया है तो अभी it's almost like a domestic commodity. It's not a global commodity anymore, right? स्टील वाला हो गया. Davos, Sajjan Jindal announced 80,000 crores of capex, notched it up to 1 lakh crores of capex in Gadchiroli. Right? So, metal capex.
By the way, Gadchiroli is turning out to be the next big center for steel and metals.
You know why?
नहीं बताओ.
2 things happen. Very quickly. And then, but because you know
I
what?
think वहाँ पर वो highway आ रहा है एक तो वो है.
वो नहीं, but उससे भी बड़ी बात है. But we have to talk about Liberation Day. We have to talk about real estate stocks. IT we've figured out. So we've but very quickly, I'll take 30 seconds or 60 seconds because I understood this when I was in. So apparently, the Maharashtra government made this large investment from Lloyd's out there in Gadchiroli. Suddenly, the locals realized that भाई वहाँ पे issues थे, Naxalites etc.
हाँ वो
कि जॉब मिल रहा है, and security मिल रही है. पैसा घर पे आ रहा है, लाइफ को भी थ्रेटन नहीं है, यू आर ऑन द राइट साइड ऑफ द लॉ, एवरीथिंग इज ग्रेट. द स्टोरी दैट आई हियर इज दैट व्हाइल लोकल्स मूव्ड लॉक स्टॉक बैरल टू दोस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्लांट्स ऑफ लॉयड्स, इवन सम ऑफ द नैक्सलाइट्स टर्न नॉर्मल. सो उन्होंने वो वहाँ पे अपेरेंटली वहाँ पे नैक्सलाइट प्रॉब्लम खत्म करवा दिया. एंड द आयरन ओर रिजर्व्स इन गडचिरोली आर द फाइनेस्ट इन द कंट्री, व्हिच इज व्हाई लॉयड्स ने जो किया, दे डिड इन 2023 33,000 crores और 24 में 33,000 crores commitment. and they upped it more. These guys have come out and said they're doing 1 lakh crores in Gadchiroli, and others will follow suit because the best quality iron ore apparently. So that's a big transformation. I'm so happy to see that happening, right?
And the best part is that apart from the fact that कि पहले you had Orissa as one of the centers. Now you have Central India में one of the centers, which is evolving into a big metal. And when it comes in, you have the logistics and supply chain coming in around it.
Exactly. चलिए अभी लिबरेशन डे.
हाँ.
बताइए.
लिबरेशन डे ट्रम्प अपने आप को लिबरेट तो नहीं करेगा पर हम लोगों को होप करते करेगा. बट it's coming at 4 p.m. New York time. That means around 1:30 a.m. in the morning. And guys, watch NDTV Profit. We are going live with what he's going to say, and in the morning as well, we'll be showing what he's saying. But the sense is that India has already informed the US that there is a certain number of concessions with respect to tariff they are putting in on the table, and it may involve some bit of agriculture as well. That's what सुनने में आ रहा है, पर एग्रीकल्चर पूरा नहीं होगा बिकॉज इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी स्टिकी सब्जेक्ट फॉर अस. सो वो सुनने में आ रहा है. वो अगर होता है एंड इफ ट्रम्प इज टेकिंग दैट ऑन बोर्ड बिफोर ही इज अनाउंसिंग इट, देन वी आर प्रीटी मच सेफ इन दैट सेंस. In the sense that he will announce a tariff and he will say that we have this agreement coming in, so I'm postponing for what India will have to pay. And that's a win-win situation for all of us because by November is when we are expecting the first phase of the bilateral trade agreement to be signed. And when that happens, that would be the best thing to happen because industrial goods to वैसे भी होंगे. So I'm of the view that इतना impact नहीं होगा unless he is saying कि नहीं मैं because he has very clearly said that he is okay with the process being followed to put tariff. Finer details are still being worked out. His entire team is still working on the finer details. Whether it's going to be country level or sector level or product level, it's something which needs to be worked out. But when you talk about an average tariff at a country level, you will have to look at sector and product level. उसके बिना आप average tariff count ही नहीं कर सकते. But because the bilateral trades is happening, he may postpone it for a few months before putting it. But that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is that he say कि भाई 5% एडिशनल लगेगा कंट्री लेवल पे एंड सेक्टर लेवल पे मैं आगे जाके करूँगा. When we do the bilateral, we'll look at it and we'll do it.
Perfect.
And at that point in time, there is minor. It's going to be slight negative for auto as a whole, auto components specifically, and pharma के लिए slightly negative because some part will be absorbed and some part will be passed on.
So there are very quickly, and then we'll take questions by the way, but very quickly. So I have numbers. Agricultural exports to the US face 5.3% tariff. US farm exports 37.7%. Very likely agri will not be touched, but the shrimp exporters etc. could be in the eye of a storm. So therefore उन पे ध्यान रखो. मुझे नहीं लगता है मुझे नहीं लगता है कि wheat और walnut growers को कुछ होने देंगे government because the government will protect them. Tobacco and cigarettes, negative tariff differential of 168%. So that space is not impacted. So don't bother.
We are excess producers of tobacco and cigarettes.
तो अपने को फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. यहाँ उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. Automobile auto components, highest tariff differential 23.1%. Watch out for auto components in particular, and also of course some of the EV players.
Yes.
Diamonds and jewelry छोटा सा pocket है 13.3%. The second highest tariff differential could get impacted. Pharma एक खाली nuance है pharma में. अपना trade deficit with the US is 4th highest.
Yes.
Switzerland, Singapore, and Ireland are the 3 top pharma trade deficits with the US. India is number 4.
And to put a number to it, 13.8 billion is the kind of export we do, and we import around 800 million odd. Simple. So differential जो है $13 billion का net surplus है.
But the key is India is number 4 and has gone up. Why? Because of one thing in the last 2 years.
CDMO, na?
No.
Then?
Revlimid.
Yeah.
Revlimid generic contributed big time to this uptick in differential. It is anyways falling off next year.
Got it.
So hopefully pharma, maybe some carve-outs, maybe this thing won't get impacted. So these are some numbers.
What about textiles?
उतना impact नहीं होगा.
Now,
it's a finished goods which will be impacted, and we are not so big on that. you have the Bangladesh, the Vietnam of the world, which are
बहुत ज़्यादा है.
बहुत ज़्यादा है उनका, वहाँ से ज़्यादा जाता है.
I'm going to be speaking to PDS Limited tomorrow in KYC. We do a lot of exports.
Yes.
So
Interesting. So we
to
should
see कि क्या चल रहा है.
क्या चल रहा है, because intermediaries में तो अगर हम कर रहे हैं तो impact होगा, but हम जो यहाँ से we are sending it either to Bangladesh or to Vietnam, we are not picking finished products and selling it to the US.
Fair point.
So unless we do that in a big way, it's not going to impact us.
Perfect. ठीक है. Questions? Should we take questions?
Yeah, we can.
Are we allowed to?
Producers, please send us questions. See.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so okay. So if we don't have, then I can quickly
Please.
discuss one company which I spoke to on KYC today. Dhanuka Agritech. So
Yeah.
agrochem is a sector which you want to look at because you're seeing a bit of a turnaround there. You had UPL, a positive note coming from HSBC today on UPL. A lot of the problems that UPL faced was debt related. And this one is virtually a debt-free company. They've done an acquisition of 2 formulas of Bayer for 165 crore, contributes 220 crore to top line, and this company does a 20% margin.
Less than one time sales.
Much less than one time sales.
Always been that way, but
Yes, but
Dhanuka has never been a company which has gone dramatically higher, right?
no. So Dhanuka is trading at 2.5 times sales. By the way. A little bit more than 2.5 times.
2.5 times?
Yeah,
Really? Okay.
2,000 crore is the trailing 12 months top line. 5,800 crore is the market
TTM.
cap.
Okay.
TTM. 1 year forward भी ले लो sir, 2,500 crore guide कर रहा है with this acquisition. So उतना कुछ खास कुछ अलग नहीं है. 2.5 times sales पे trade हो रहा है, whatever. But point being that it has purchased something less than that, 165 crore. Debt on the balance sheet is just 60 crore rupees. And they've used it to fund this acquisition, the 60 crore of debt,
Cash flow
which they will pay out. Cash flow ठीक ठाक है. And when you're looking at profit after, or rather margins, they are saying that there's 100 bips upside to margins. So therefore margins will go from 19 to 20%. You're seeing largely that 2,500 crore ka top line console karega, including this acquisition. This acquisition allows them to go global as well. EMEA market में footprint, LATAM market में footprint create करेगा, Brazil market में footprint create करेगा, धानुका का, and therefore you could sell some of these products there. But largely 2,500 crore का FY26 का top line guidance है, 20% का margin है, तो around 500 crore का EBITDA है, and thereafter you are trading at 5,800 crore. Not very expensive for a zero debt company in the agrochem space.
You're saying 12 times EV EBITDA.
Yeah. 11.5 times. And of course 1 year forward, but 15% growth is something that they are reasonably certain about, subject to monsoons of course. Unfortunately agrochem suffers from that as a downside risk, and little bit of forex because they have some of their raw materials coming from Japan and China, so your forex impact impacts the numbers a little bit, and the pass through is not as clean because you can't pass through to 1 crore farmers the pricing that you are getting adversely impacted by, you can't pass it through. But at the moment, they are very comfortable with regard to margins. Around 20% margin is what they are guiding for. So, if agrochem is a space you're looking for, that's just a summary of what conversation we've had. You can go in and you can check.
They can drop the interview.
Yeah, we can drop the interview
here, so you can have a look at it. Hazel has a question for you. Niraj, you had mentioned you will take this question today. So, posting it again.
Thank you, Hazel.
In hospitals, bigger brand names like Apollo and Narayana are a better bet? Question mark. Or smaller ones like Kowai has more upside.
Hazel, to predict an upside would be difficult, but I'll tell you what let's say for example Dr. Amit Verma, who runs a PE fund called Quadria Capital, says. His view is that hospitals will become a branded business. So bigger the brand, more the pull is what the hospital will have. And I asked him कि बॉम्बे में तो for example मैं तो ऐसे जाता हूँ कि जो डॉक्टर है उसको फॉलो करता हूँ. उसने बोला लीव बॉम्बे, लीव मेट्रोज आउट, रेस्ट ऑफ इंडिया विल फॉलो अ ब्रांड. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर ABC ब्रांड है जो वेरी पॉपुलर हॉस्पिटल स्टॉक लिस्टेड है, तो अचानक वो पॉपुलैरिटी भी है, पीपल विल ट्रस्ट इट, एंड देयरफॉर इफ इट्स गॉट अ ब्रांच in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, then people might migrate there. So the limited point is, I haven't looked at the individual relative valuations of these three. It's also difficult to say that. But to answer a prima facie question, I think if the valuation differential is not very high, always bet on the sectoral leaders. Hotels mein abhi, for example, Hazel, people are betting on the number 2, number 3 or the second rung. But bhi hospitals mein I don't think wo case aaya hai. So Koi might be a good player too, by the way. Matlab listed hai, must be amongst the top 10 any which ways.
There are many
even though
more
it is small.
regional players which
But
are
sir,
there.
consolidation, overall,
You know,
just
the
balance
models are-
sheet strength
in the hospital
some of
business-
these
in the hospital
businesses
business,
Capex index.
really required.
While in the metro you have the Apollos of the world which are there. In regional players, you have those hub and spoke models, right? Which matlab, you have a one multi-specialty and one on base hospital which sends there. So there are multiple models.
More on diagnostics, eye care, Dr. Agarwal's eye care and stuff like that.
They
have a lot of
on
hub
that.
and spoke.
Lot of reports on that as well, some which are constructive. But the point is, itna under-penetrated is, Sajeet sir, ke it will, the large players have so much of room to grow. You can bet on them.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, we hope you answer your question. You can't predict upsides, I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, but go by the names and do the due diligence before you invest.
Correct.
Yeah, larger names are good corporate governance, so no issues there.
My question to the panel is, how can we play Europe right now?
You want to invest in European companies? Is that the question?
MFSL and NAM only
I think
offer
Indian
Samsung
companies.
and US play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
है ना? It's a good question.
फंड फंड्स कोई है जो प्ले करते हैं? ब्लैक रॉक का कोई है या डीएसपी का जो यूरोप करता है?
Good question. No, I don't think there are too many products which are focused here. It's actually a gap that you found out, really, and it's a valid point because Europe is starting to grow and valuations are good. So the Stockholms and the Westeds only allow US.
Yeah.
Integrated brokers, IB, integrated brokers allows you to invest everywhere across the world. I think they might have a European thing, so you might want to check that.
Look for an
site.
ETF which looks at.
That's the ETF route. वो भी देखना पड़ेगा.
ETF route देखो.
नहीं बड़ी अच्छा रिसर्च है करके हमें कल बताना चाहिए शो पे.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
कि कल यूरोप में बैठ कर तो कैसे करें? It's a very good question. Thank you so much whoever asked.
Aditya,
Thank you.
Vigin Dharan, hi guys, thanks for taking our questions. Couple of questions from my end. Is there a relief rally on cards after tariff announcement tomorrow?
Depends on what comes.
How?
But do you know, I think this question more, let me rephrase it. Let me make it more challenging. You believe that a lot of it has already been built in?
On the negative side or the positive
side?
नहीं, I don't think so. मतलब built in मतलब किस तरह से? मतलब आज के डेट में जो हम ट्रेड कर रहे हैं ना वो मोर ऑफ एन अर्निंग्स ट्रेड एंड मैक्रो ट्रेड चल रहा है हमारा. आई डोंट थिंक कि एक्चुअल इम्पैक्ट ऑफ द ट्रेड इज बीन नहीं हुआ है. वी आर अज्यूमिंग दैट कि हाँ इंडिया विल बी insulated because of the kind of relationship we have with US India which is there and between Modi and Trump, and that's why we're going to be better off than the others.
So if anything, positive more than negative. If you could have a negative surprise, then
there is going to be an issue which is
adverse
reaction coming in.
But if it's positive, not so much of the upside will be capped. That's the right way to look at it?
That's the right way to look at it. Because अगर tariffs आए, India अगर बच भी गया और थोड़ा upside आया, but if US then falters, then India will get pulled down. मतलब थोड़ा, I don't know, the texture of the market doesn't look very constructive right now.
Exactly. मतलब जिस तरह से ऑप्शंस में भी ट्रेडिंग हो रही है ना, इट्स 23,000 to 23,500 के बीच में बिल्डअप हो रहा है. इट्स रेंज, इट्स मतलब दिस नो बेट विच इज गोइंग कि मैं करूँगा. और ये ER&D companies relatively less likely to be impacted from tariff as they can pass on the cost to clients.
Yeah,
that is true, but there's a different issue which is there, right? Macro issue which is coming in. OEMs अगर delay कर दें अपना because of the tariffs, then
डिमांड ही ना बचे,
डिमांड स्लो हो जाएगा उनके लिए, and the delivery for them becomes much more slower, and so it will impact their revenues.
And let me refresh the conversation you had with Vikas Khemani on this front, because I remember that conversation. He said that ER&D companies, unlike IT companies, they recruit specialized people. When you recruit specialized people, you continue to have them on your book. You can't lay them off very easily. You'll continue to have them on the book regardless of cycle. Therefore, that cost is more of a fixed cost than a variable cost. And because it's more of a fixed cost than a variable cost, your margins shrink very, very quickly if your top line growth suffers. And that's what basically kind of plays out.
Vikas के साथ बात है ना. We should drop that interview again.
Talking about unfiltered.
Yes.
Yeah. He's spoken. But the only corollary to that is that unless the auto OEM, let's assume it's an auto company or some other, LTT has a 6 sectors, right, that it operates in. And some of the, and all of these ER&D companies, by the way, Indian ER&D companies have a nice presence in Europe.
Yes.
So for some of those
And exposure
sectors,
to European cars.
yes,
car makers,
European car makers and non-auto as well.
Non-auto as well.
LTTS has a lot of exposure in Europe. So actually their order books might actually start filling up a little bit, part one. I'm very interested in looking at the commentary. End of quarter 3, when AI was the talk of town, etc. and stuff like that, KPIT came out and said that they've upped the lower end of the guidance for quarter 4. And now we have to wait for the FY26 guidance. I think ER&D might be slightly different than IT services.
Abhi,
On the positive side,
yeah,
I
I
think.
saw one report just now. I think Kotak ka tha ya HSBC ka tha, and they were mentioning this that while they are relatively better than the IT services, the only issue that can come in is because of the macroeconomic headwind, which is the tariff, which may impact OEMs. So today OEMs are have finished their capex, everything, but the new launches which are in the play that can get delayed, and as a result, if they get delayed, then the ER&D companies can get their revenue delayed as well, and leading to a slightly lower revenue impact. That's what their argument was.
Interesting. It's something that we should ask the companies when they come for the interviews.
Rinal, hi NDTV. It seems management of PSU companies like BEL, Concor have caught the private sector bug and overestimate revenue and order book guidance, which leads to market disappointment. Do you agree?
Not BEL. Not BEL.
No,
Concor maybe. But Concor का तो मैंने सुना ही नहीं है. Management coming and talking.
Let me put it this way, right? These are all PSU companies. Many of them get nominated orders. What is nominated orders? Means government बोलता है कि मुझे ये equipment चाहिए जिसके लिए DRDO उस कंपनी के साथ काम करता है. Means either BEL हो या HAL हो या BML हो, कोई भी कंपनी हो. Like for example, अभी कुछ महीने पहले हमने हाउजर का हमने देखा था जिसमें टाटास एंड भारत फौज को मिला था ऑर्डर. It was a big order which they got. वहाँ पर DRDO worked with these two entities. And so when the final DAC approval came in, which was many years back, but orders आए, तो ये orders उन्हीं को ही मिलेंगे. Now what BEL is said, I think by the end of FY25, they were expecting 24,000 crores. उनको 18 करोड़ मिला या 17 करोड़ कुछ मिला है, 17,000 odd करोड़ का order मिला है. So there's a differential which is coming in. The same thing is there for HAL as well, because HAL in February said that they would be getting orders for 1.3 lakh crores for the light helicopter, which is the Prachand, and for the LCA Mark 1A, which is the next series of LCA aircraft 97 उसके लिए. और 97 वाला अभी तक आया नहीं है, और BEL का भी जो रिमेनिंग 6-7,000 करोड़ का ऑर्डर है वो भी नहीं आया है. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि ऑर्डर नहीं आएगा, ऑर्डर आएगा मे बी विद अ फ्यू मंथ डिले. एंड ये सारे ऑर्डर्स ऐसे नहीं है कि आज आया तो एक साल में. दीज आर मल्टी ईयर ऑर्डर्स, मतलब इट विल गो ऑन फॉर नेक्स्ट 3 to 5 years, एंड इनके ऑर्डर बुक्स आर एनीवेज बुक big. So you need to look at how the execution is happening for them. Order book के basis पे आप buy or sell मत कीजिए. अब देखिए कि execution कैसे कर रहे हैं और कैसे revenue orders को revenue में convert कर रहे हैं. That is something what is very important for all companies with defense और हो या capex related companies हो या capital goods related company हो. You can build an order book. And then you have yesterday Suzlon, I think Suzlon they cancelled some orders, right? Means
yes.
300 megawatt.
Yesterday Suzlon, today Rights also. Rights का भी कुछ थोड़ा
so
cancel
ये order
हुआ
books, ये orders ना ये at one point of time आते हैं और फिर because of macroeconomic conditions cancel हो जाते हैं. ये it's a normal process. So you look at the revenue growth, which is visibility, which is coming in, and that's the way to look at any company, whether defense or any other.
And frankly, I'm sorry, the order book, unfortunately, in FY25 has suffered because of elections and lots of other factors, including macro as well. So there's been some bit of drag with regard to order book. May not be the best way to look at some of these companies. Maybe you may want to wait for a few months before you make any large action in terms of your portfolio with regard to at least this metric is what I would believe. Things are starting to the backlog is starting to clear up. Is my
Okay,
guess.
guys, last one.
Last one question, which is there on which is better, Blue Star or Voltas or KRN or Anup?
Complete
अलग-अलग है।
बहुत बड़े अलग-अलग segments है,
segments
right?
है।
Because KRN is different, Anup is different, and Blue Star and Voltas.
Which is better, Voltas or RR Cable or Finolex? ये बहुत he has done a lot of combination for
RR cable or
Finolex.
Finolex.
Blues Voltas or RR Cable or Finolex.
अरे
But you know.
All of them are doing well, yaar.
All of them doing well, but summers have come in early, so some of the AC companies are going to do well.
आज मैंने ये अंबर से बात कर रहा था.
अंबर से बात कर रहे थे.
And Amber, I clarified Amber. So he said that it's been a very good season.
Oh, he calls it Amber, is it not Amber?
Yeah, I told him that I call it Amber because it's Amber, and I realized that a lot of people told me that it's Amber, so I'll pronounce it as Amber. So he smiled and he said, okay, fine, yeah. So I'm guessing it's called Amber and not Amber. But yeah, so apparently.
तो अंबर ने आपको क्या बोला?
अंबर ने आपको क्या बोला?
Okay, very good season. So maybe instead of trying to figure out, I mean, what is better in what parlance remains to be seen. A lot of people, I mean, products for both are very well renowned. Valuations for both are expensive.
You know, there's one thing which was there in one of the reports where I think Voltas also said that you know they are facing issues with respect to compressors less than 2
वो Blue Star को भी आता है.
Blue Star को भी आता
वो
है.
सबको आता है.
सबको आता है because import allow नहीं कर रहे हैं वो, and so there would be
वो
some.
सबको है.
KRN
heat exchangers में है, तो थोड़ा वो रूम एसी में है ही नहीं. KRN heat exchangers का जो प्रोडक्ट है goes for industrial AC.
HVAC or something.
हाँ, मतलब पूरा industrial AC तो रूम एसीज में है ही नहीं. So different segment altogether, back end product बना रहा है and all of that. And Finolex तो no connection whatsoever. So, yep. Cool. Should we wrap?
Yes, एक renewable पे है वॉरी पे.
आज रिपोर्ट आया था ना?
हाँ,
आपने
नहीं किया था. बताइए क्या बोल रहे हैं वॉरी पे?
So basically they are saying oversupply होगा. दोनों domestic front पे
वो
और
ऐसे कुछ ना supply.
And sand at the price of gold.
हाँ.
ये दो चीज really stood out. कि यार valuations matter यार at the end of the day, that you have to price in downside risk. That's the broader thesis. But essentially they are saying there's going to be large oversupply globally as well as domestically. Large amounts of capacity ramp up is happening across the board. Whether it's some of the big ones like a Reliance and an Adani, or even each company themselves, if they are in ancillary industries, they're trying to do their own small capacity for their own captive consumption, and therefore buying it, I'm not so sure will really work as well as it has over the last few years. Therefore, ROCE ratios will likely come off, is what they are saying. ROCE, which is above 40, will come into the 20s, which is a large kind of reduction where return ratios is concerned. So you may want to keep your eye out on this one. Globally, though, of course, there's plenty happening in this space. The entire shift away from environment is big. So yeah. So you may want to take care if you're in any of these counters. Of course, both of those are down 2.5% today.
True.
Give us likes.
And hit the subscribe button, please.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
And
so please.
Yes. And we're just
we get assessed by y'all, of course, most importantly, but our producers also assess us.
And they tell us that this is your target.
So, how many follows have we got? Subscribers added.
Hey, but Mridul,
thank you.
Independent of what these two are saying, I really like you guys.
No, even we like you.
No, that's an afterthought. Thank you guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. All the best. Do tune in at 1:30 if you are a night owl, or early in the morning, because we'll get you all the updates of the famous Donald Trump speech on Liberation Day.
And catch you tomorrow at 12:30, and we'll give you a small analysis of what liberation meant.
Perfect. Thanks.
We mean Sajeet sir. Thank you guys.
मैं तो सुबह दिखूंगा यार, रात को 5%.
कोई चांस
एंकर कैसे करूँगा?
हाँ तो 6 बजे देखना, 5 बजे उठ के यूट्यूब चालू कर देना, वो सुनते देना क्या बोल रहा है.
लंच करें?
यस.
बहुत बुरा.